All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another WNBA draft prospect video slash women's college basketball video. Today, we're going to break down Flau'jae Johnson, LSU guard, a 4-year player, a very controversial isn't the right word, a very headlines player. She's in the headlines, very popular, very notable for her on the court stuff, off the court stuff. In this series, we talk about maybe where these players might end up. We talk about their play style. We talk about who they're being compared to as like in a WNBA comparison, who they will might stack up to be in the future of their career. My personal concerns, my personal likes and dislikes about the player, not necessarily the person. Um, so yeah, if you like what I've said, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So, Flau'jae Johnson. Man, oh man, it feels like Flau'jae's been around for a long time. And she has. She's been around the college game for a very, very long time. A 4-year player, successful at different levels throughout her college career. 22 years old, and I have a lot to say. I have a lot of thoughts. If you thought my AZ video was a bit negative and you thought things I said you didn't like the things I said about AZ FUD, well, you're in for another one here because I have lots of thoughts. But unlike AZ, Flau'jae is not anywhere near projected to be the number one pick or like a top three pick. She is projected to more be around the 4 to 10 range. At some resources at some point have had her as low as 10. Her average ranking is around 5. Um, and I've grown to sort of understand Flau'jae. Um, Flau'jae could have come out last year. She decided to go back to LSU, try to win another national championship. It doesn't look like they're going to get there quite this year. Sort of a mixed bag year for her. She sort of pushed her chips to the middle of the table, said, I'm going all in on this one last year in college. And she sort of regressed and hasn't looked as great. But if you're a WNBA, if you're like in a WNBA draft room or in those conversations in those front offices, you might be able to look at the bright side of Flau'jae and say, hey, she's great at all these things. We can bring her in and she can do great things for us, and we can help her mature her game, help her develop her game even more. I will say a bunch of positive things about her. Um, if you're looking for an athletic player, she is probably the most athletic player in this draft. That is in the lottery. Um, she is all world when it comes to that stuff. I've seen her fly around the court, defensively, offensively. There is still some polish that needs to be done. I would say, out of the lottery picks, she's probably the least polished. There is some bright spots with her mid-range game. Her three-pointer leaves a little bit to be desired, but that's more subject of the play style of LSU, and that teams are going to focus in on Flau'jae as a offensive option at the next level, at the WNBA level. I don't see her being looked at to be a number two. Preferably, I would like to see her as a number three or number four, somebody who can come in, give you buckets when you need it, but not necessarily be looked at and always have the spotlight on her. Now, there are some other things that we're going to get to that are a bit negative that might sway some people in a different direction of drafting her or drafting her very highly. Um, but overall, she seems like a very well liked person. In the locker room, doesn't seem like a locker room sort of bad person at all. She seems very loved by teammates. Um, there's been some fracturing and some debate whether her and her ex teammate, now WNBA player Angel Reese, are on good terms. They seem to be on good terms at this point. She seems like a very, we'll say, mature person for being 22. She's been in a lot of situations, a lot of good, a lot of bad. She's leading this LSU team now as the senior. I don't think the lone senior, but the most accomplished senior on this team, and um, I think that's something to note, that she's a leader of girls, of college players. Could she be a leader of women, of grown WNBA women? In the future, I think so. Right now, no. Is she going to be a good locker room person? Yes. I think those are the positive attributes that um, are sort of on the court, off the court, and sort of on the court adjacent. She's not going to be a problem. Um, the she's not going to be a problem. There's been she's been in the news. Her family's been in the news because I forget if it's like her stepmother. I don't think it's her mother. Somebody related to her um, can't stop running their mouth, and that is something that if I'm a GM of any team in any league, I look at it and say, if I'm going to draft you, I sit Flau'jae down and say, hey, if I'm going to draft you, you need to make sure those people shut up and just stay out of the news because I want you as a player. I think you're a great person. I think you have all these intangibles and all these tangibles that will make you have a long WNBA career. If your family is going to be a problem, if all this stuff that they say about their teammates, my players, your teammates in the future, I'm going to have a problem with that. And if you can't keep them under control and you can't say, hey, I am the breadwinner, I'm about to make us so much money as a WNBA player, you need to shut up. If you can't do that, then I can't draft you. Now that's one of my only off the court concerns. She does have some off the court interest. Flau'jae does. She is a rapper. She is a I guess like an influencer, but I guess every player is an influencer now. There are some things about that where I'm like, I I want your focus to be on basketball. But if it's just a little side thing you do in the off season and like you're not like really it's a side thing. It's a how do you say it's a hobby. Fine, cool. You might make money off that hobby, but cool. Just keep it to the side. I don't want any of that nonsense. I don't want any of that stuff. I want you to focus on being a WNBA player because you're not going to be a great player from day one. You're not. So I need you to focus in on that, and then once you're acclimated and everything's going well and you're in the rotation, you have guaranteed minutes, then you can go back and do that stuff. But I need you to focus in on that stuff. And if those are my only complaints and it's like tiny off the court things, the rest of her game on the court is well rounded enough. She at least tries at everything. And especially on the defensive end, there are some things that, I think she's a high activity defender. Is she an effective defender? Sometimes it's a little, it, the visuals are a little skewed to what the numbers actually say. If I go look at the numbers right here through her whole career, um, she has always been a vertical defender. She gets a lot of blocks for her size, we'll say. In her sophomore year, she averaged one block, and ever since then, she's been around there. Freshman year, zero point 0.8, uh, junior year, 0.9, senior year, this year, 0.8. Um, her steals are very, very high. Um, Going from freshman to senior year 1.2, 2.1, 1.7, and this year 1.3. So she's an active defender. Those hands do get her in trouble sometimes. She does get in some foul trouble sometimes, and she has to sit on the bench. But again, same thing with the offense. If she's looked at to be one of the primary defenders, not saying she can't do that, but if I have her as an additional defender to an already great defensive team, I'm okay with that. I love that. And the same thing with the offense, like I said. I'm not looking at her. I hope no teams are looking at her to be a 1A. If she's going to be a number three, a number four, and she's going to work her way up to being a number two, and by the time she gets to be a number two, she's going to be so well polished and everything, I'm fine with throwing her out there and doing that. But to start off her career in the WNBA, there's going to be need to be some reeling in and being like, hey, we need you to be an addition, not a primary, and we're going to work you up to be a primary. And there's a world in which she is I want to say the best player on a good team, but she's the second best player on a good team. And there's nothing wrong with being the second best player on the good team as like the fifth pick, you know? You look at a player on my Las Vegas Aces, Jackie Young, who was a top pick, the number one pick, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. and she's the number two on a really good championship level team, and she has 3 rings, and she has a gold medal. So like, there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's where Flau'jae lands around, I'm not saying she's gonna be Jackie Young, at least in play style wise, but if she's just gonna be a number two on really good teams, I'm game for that. And to get into some um, WNBA player comparisons, the main one everybody uses, and I think is very accurate and one of the more accurate ones in a long time, at least on the WNBA side of things, is like she's just Kalia Copper. She's a young Kalia Copper, and I like Kalia Copper a lot. I think she's has a lot of those intangible things. Has a very high motor. Kalia Copper is probably a better defender than Flau'jae will ever be, because Kalia Copper is just different. Um, but in the mid range, at the 3 point line, their games are very similar. Um, Attitude wise, the grit, the determination, all that positive stuff that you want from a player, that you want from basically an unselfish player to be like, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. That's what you want. That's what Flau'jae and Clear Copper both give you. Clear Copper, very long, illustrious WNBA career. I mean, if I pull up her stats here, um, yeah, Kalia Copper is the second thing that pops up. If I go look at her WNBA career here, um, 4-time All Star, 2021 WNBA champ. That was with the Chicago Sky, 2021 Finals MVP, 2024 All NBA. Like Kalia Copper doesn't always get her flowers, at least with the accolades, but she's very accomplished, very highly regarded by her opponents and her teammates alike. And if Flau'jae turns into that, I don't know, in the right situation, I guess Flau'jae could be a Finals MVP. But if she turns into Kalia Copper, I think that's a great pick at 5, because Kalia Copper was, let's see, the 7th pick, so right around the same range. These are the kind of players that you don't build a team around, but every team that's competing wants. And if Flau'jae is around there, then Flau'jae is around there. Let's circle back to the numbers before we head fully into the WNBA stuff and where she might be able to land. What I think of a recent game she played, a championship SEC game against a opponent that they have varying success against. But I want to get into her numbers as a whole before I start talking about this game. Um, Again, going from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year in that order. 11 points, um, 2 turnovers, 6 rebounds in 27 minutes, played 36 games. Her freshman year, her sophomore year, it goes up 14 points. Turnovers go down, only 2. Flat. Last year, it was the year previous to that, it was 2.3. 2.5 assists, that went up. Her assists went up. Her rebound stayed around the same. Um, and let's see here. Her field goal went up immensely. Went from not 4.6, 46% to 54%. That's 2 point percentage. Her 3 point percentage went up as well from 33 to 38. And her, let me see here. Her games, she came off the bench for 2 games. So yeah. And then junior year, this was the big year. I thought last year she should have came out. I thought last year was a really good year from her. I was 100% convinced she was gonna come out um, and enter her name in the draft. She did not. This was her best year by far. 18 points, um, 1.7 steals, um, 2.7 turnovers, um, 5 rebounds again. Her free throw went up all the way to 81 when in the past it was in the 70s. Really good. 2 point percentage went down a little bit. 49%. 3 point percentage stayed around the same, 38%, which is really good. Um, the attempts are going up as well throughout her career in college. And then her field goals. This was the most amount of field goals she's ever taken in her college career. 14, almost 15 a game, and her field goal percentage was 46. A bit down, a bit more down to earth, and it has been going down every year of her career except the 2023-2024 season, which was her sophomore season, and this was the second most minutes she's played in her career, um, 31 a game. Now this year's the tough year, man. Again, like I said in the preamble to me talking about her, Um, you can look at some of these numbers and you can look at some of her highlight tape and her games, and you can say, we can find some positives in this stuff. But the flat truth is like LSU is getting figured out. They've been getting figured out. Flau'jae has been figured out, and there's the level to the path to the next level for LSU is another conversation. But the path to Flau'jae getting to the next level just didn't happen. You would like to see those numbers go up progressively throughout the years, and this year in particular, it's been down because they've added some um, elite teammates to help Flau'jae. In maybe sort of retrospective, it's hurt Flau'jae. I mean, it helps her develop more into that mindset of I'm not going to be the number one. I'm going to be the number two, the number three. It's not all going to be on my shoulders. We can share the ball. We can move the ball the right way. But it has hurt her a little bit. Down to 13 points. Turnovers are down as well because I'm a ball in her hand a lot. Um, only only two, like 1.8. So round up to two. Steals are around the same. One. Rebounds are up by like a point two. Um, Assists are up. Uh, Most assists of her career. Rebounding's down a little bit. Um, 2 point percentage is staying around the same. 3 point percentage is back up to 40% on the year, and then her field goals are down to 11 a game, and they've played 32 games this year, and they just lost in the SEC championship game. That was very important for their season because let's see, LSU is not they're okay enough. They're 27-5 on the season, and they're fourth in the SEC. Um, and to LSU's credit, they took South Carolina, coached by Don Staley, um, down to the wire, and then Don Staley and South Carolina lost to Texas the other day. So LSU was never going to be the best team in this conference. Um, the stuff you hear from Kim Mulkey, who I'm not the biggest fan of, who's LSU's head coach. I'm not the biggest Kim Mulkey fan. I have my thoughts about her and the way she coaches and her succeeding in the NIL era and uh, all that stuff and the transfer portal stuff. And I have my own thoughts about her. But this team simply hasn't been ready, and it's sort of reflected on. I'm not saying it's all Flau'jae's fault, and I would never suggest that the whole program of a whole college, relies on one player unless you're projected to be the number one pick. Then I sort of think it does, but Flau'jae's not that. It relies on somebody who is limited, and Flau'jae's limited, and LSU is limited, and there was no real path for them to be the best team in this conference. I think there's a and I have notes here about this game. There's huge, huge. How do you say it? It's um like temperament issues with this team. Like this team likes to play. I'll use the word dirty, but like to play dirty, likes to get in people's faces, and when they can't do that, it doesn't work. And nobody's scared of LSU. And I think for what Flau'jae is, she's she's never gonna be like a get in your face sort of player. I think LSU, some of the players are a bunch of front runners. When they're down, they're down. When they're up, they're doing all the celebrations and everything. And I do appreciate the passion, but I could do without the antics, and I could do without all the extra stuff because it's just not needed. And I think it reflects badly on a player like Flau'jae, who's the senior on this team, who is supposed to be leading the team. And I think other teams, again, have figured Flau'jae out. They figured LSU out, and when Flau'jae leaves and goes to the WNBA in a couple months here, we'll see what happens with them. Um, Moving on to this game very quickly because I thought this game was very telling of LSU season and Flau'jae Johnson season. Um, this was a huge game. South Carolina Tigers, not South Carolina, LSU Tigers versus South Carolina Gamecocks. Very big game. The Gamecocks moved to, I believe it was 14-0 against this team in this era. Um, and that's a huge accomplishment for South Carolina. Um, I like a lot of players on the South Carolina team. I don't know if we're gonna get to talk about all of them. Um, Leading up to the WNBA draft, I would like to talk about maybe one or two of them at some point, but we'll see. Um, but this was supposed to be a huge revenge game for Flau'jae and the LSU Tigers, because they got whooped very handily um, the time previous they met this season. And if you've been online and you saw the memes from this game, it was pretty funny. I had a good chuckle about them. Those were in particular meme where Flau'jae was very distraught and she threw a big four, four fingers, because she's number four. Um, and it was just that made me giggle. But uh, LSU indeed did not get their revenge. It was a slower start for LSU, and it started to become very apparent that maybe just maybe, hear me out here. Flau'jae Johnson is not a big time gamer. She's just not. These big games, man. She just doesn't show up, and it's kind of embarrassing. This game, 6 points, 1 of 8 field goal, 0 of 3 from three, 5 assists, 3 turnovers, no fouls, no personal fouls, but did a whole lot of nothing. A nothing burger in 31 minutes, a nothing burger. Um, and she just didn't pop off the screen, and this leads me to another point where a Flau'jae, where I'll be honest, guys, I'll be honest, since like her and Angel Reese were together on this team, I've never seen Flau'jae pop off the screen to me. Every game I've watched with my own two eyes, like visually, like not just highlights. I've sat down and watched LSU play. It's never popped off the pit, never popped off the screen for me. And again, I'm gonna give her some leeway because maybe it's just the college system, maybe it's just being under Kim Mulkey, who isn't a great um, game manager, isn't a great rotational manager in my opinion. Um, there is some stuff there that I'm gonna give her some leeway and say, hey, in a WNBA system, in a professional system, Flau'jae would be better, and she might pop off the screen more because they're going to put her in situations that make her pop off the screen more and make her more um, impactful in those moments, in those positions where she is effective already. Um, Jada Richard in this game popped off more in this game than Flau'jae to me. Jade Richard looked like a really good player in this game. The percentages aren't great for her, but she had 14 points, 5 of 12 from field goal, 2 of 4 from three, hit some not pardon me, 17 points, 7 of 12 from field goal, 3 of 6 from three, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block. She looked really good. Um, Jade, Rich, it looks like Richard, but they were saying Richard on the broadcast. So I'm gonna say Richard. She looked great. She looked better than Flau'jae. What can I say? Um, she was off the court in crunch time, leading up to the 3 minute mark. Then she got back in the game. Um, and LSU just kind of crumbled under the pressure of this game. Um, Don Staley did indeed outcoach Kim Mulkey once again um, in this head-to-head matchup. Um, South Carolina was the better team. Joyce Edwards, 18 points. Tessa Johnson, 11 points. Tanaya Latson, 19 points. Raven Johnson, 22 points. I believe um, Latson, Johnson, Raven Johnson, and Tessa Johnson are all going to the WNBA, or could enter this year. I think it's unclear if they are going. I know for a fact Raven is going. I saw some people talking about that the other day. She is there, and yeah, I've watched. I've watched a lot of Flau'jae over the years. I've watched a lot of LSU. I've tried to watch them a little bit more this year, and they just haven't done it for me, man. And maybe that's just me being sort of a low key kind of hater, but yeah, it wasn't great. And to go through some of her games here before we wrap up here and talk about WNBA stuff, where she could possibly land and all that stuff. To go through some of her game logs here. Um, she has some pretty impressive game logs. Let's see here. She has games of 20 points plus. She has one, two, three, four, five. She only has 5 games of 20 plus points. Again, that could be due to her having a somewhat better cast around her, but as the senior, you should be taking a lot of shots. You should be a little bit more consistent. Games in single digits: one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, um, eight, uh, 8 games in single digits in a what so they were in a 27-5 season. So what's that? That's like 24, 34 games. So there are some hits in there. There are some misses. I, I think Flau'jae is more of a project than people would like to believe. There is some intangible stuff. There is some locker room stuff. There is some like add her to the right team. She could be really good. Get her around the right coaching staff, the right developmental staff. She could be really good. But um, that's the next thing we're going to talk about is the team she could go to. Right now she's projected. She's been here all year. I haven't seen her move from this spot really. At number 5, going to Chicago. To team up back with Angel Reese, her LSU teammate. Um, let's see. Okay, so wait. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Right, going through her this, she's essentially finished the regular season. They're into national tournament play after this. This season, this is what you're drafting, right? A 14-point player, um, lady. Um, 37% from three, 49% from 2 point range. Very consistently healthy, no injury issues really. 11 field goals per game, 46% from field goal range. A high turnover player, 2.2. High steals, middling steals, middling blocks, but an average defender, maybe a little bit above average. A good rebounder and a high activity player. That's what you're drafting here. And uh, if she got drafted to Chicago, I would be very worried about her development. And Chicago isn't the particularly right place to be right now. They're having some issues with the ownership group. They're having some. They're getting their practice facility done. I believe it's being worked on, and there might be some sun over the horizon, but you need the sort of the immediate development and maybe Flau'jae. If I had to sit down and picture this team, and it would be like Flau'jae and Angel Reese and Camila Cardosa and Courtney Vandersloot and somebody else at the 3. I don't love it. I don't love it. That's not a great team. To play a little game because I've been like to do this in some of the videos. We're gonna sim the lottery and sim what team gets what player, and we'll do this 3 times, see where she lands. Um, Flau'jae lands in Chicago. Turn 1. Let's sim it again. Turn 2. Still in Chicago. And then in turn 3, still in Chicago. So Flau'jae, I think you're going to Chicago. Unless Chicago wants to take like Tanaya Latson or Gina Canibers or Kiki Rice or Gabrielle Jaquez or so one of these other players. Janiyah Barker. It looks like you're going to Chicago. Um, could I see her getting drafted above any of these players? In Awa Pham, AZ Fudd, um, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts? No. Unless one of them has a complete meltdown in this national tournament, and Flau'jae would need to have a really good one, I don't see her going above any of these players. And to be fair to Flau'jae, some of these teams, it's really just positional need. Um, my favorite player in this draft, Lauren Betts, I could see her going 1, but you just don't. Some of these teams don't need a center, so she's going to fall a 4. Um, it's just the way it is in drafting sometimes. Is there a world in which maybe she just drops one spot and ends up either in Portland or Toronto? That would definitely give her time to develop. There was no culture for either of those teams because they're both expansion teams, so it's going to be Flau'jae and a bunch of interesting players at some point. We have to wait for the draft or the expansion draft. So we will see. Um, yeah, Flau'jae, Kalia Copper, or maybe somewhere near that. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. Um, So yeah, that's it. That's the video. Um, this is probably be my second to last um, women's WNBA draft video. My last video is going to be about the highly touted Agua Fam out of Valencia, Spain. It looks like she's going to play in the World Cup qualifier for Spain. And that's going to be on um, your TNT or in True TV and like HBO Max, I think it is, or whatever streaming service is attached to those networks. Um, I am going to wait to do that video because I want to watch her live. I want to see what she's about. I believe that's on March 17th, so it's gonna be a little while before you guys get that video. But it lined up perfectly that she would be the last one because I know nothing about her. I'll do some draft tape, highlight tape myself, and then get to watch her on the 17th. Hopefully, play Team USA, and we'll see her go against um, some real athletes, and we'll see if Awa Fam is worth all the hype as the potential number one pick. And we'll see what happens with Flau'jae and LSU in the national tournament, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the players I've talked about in this series in the national tournament. So yeah, the end screen is popping up now, where it's been up. Check out the playlist. Check out this playlist. Check out a video perhaps, and subscribe. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.